when I woke up this morning, my name was Iqbal Gandham, but today it's Graham, just for if anybody wants to tweet. So I've been in startups. I've been in the London startup scene for far too many years, as Z would know. I've been part of Seed Camp, I've done the Europas, I've done TechCrunch, I've done the entire thing. Historically, for the first half of my career, I was a CTO. So I did the products, dev, networks, security, you name it, I've done it. I went on to build India's largest web hosting and data center business, listed out on the Bombay Stock Exchange. Then I came back to the UK, decided to become a CMO. I have to say, CTO, much easier job than a CMO. Marketing is really, really hard. I was CMO at Nutmeg from 2013 until summer 2015. I basically built the brand here in London and in the UK and kind of launched the product. I'm now the managing director of eToro. If you don't know what eToro is, a trading investment platform, and we're pretty big when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And we sponsor an awful lot of football teams this year. So if anyone wants any tickets, let me know. So growth, and how do we get to a million customers? How do we get 100,000, etc.? So I'm just going to step back. Before I went to India to build a company called Net for India, I built a company called Onet here, and we generated $600,000. I think it was in 2 weeks flat, and we didn't have a single product, and that was very creative marketing. We were all biz dev people, we were all sales people, and we realized that we didn't need a product, we just needed to tell people we had an amazing product. So we sold dial-up internet service access to people, and we didn't have a modem or anything to sell them. We sold them a dream. We did go and build it, but we had no money to build it. So we figured if we get the customers to pay for it, then we'll go and buy the equipment, and we'll buy time with them for 2 weeks, and we'll go and build an ISP, which we did. Where did we market? We did a really creative marketing deal. We figured we could not compete. We could not go where our competitors were. They had deep pockets, and we couldn't compete with them. So we thought, if we could market somewhere where nobody else is, we'd stick out like a sore thumb. And we thought, where do we get something really, really cheap? So motorway service stations at the back of toilet doors, that's where we went. And then we got a little bit more creative. We said, well, we don't really want to pay for this. So how do we do a deal with the company who's selling this advertising space? So we went and spoke to them. We said, look, between the time you've sold your advertising space and between the time you put your next space up, there must be a gap. You must have all these gaps, right? Dead space, do us a deal. So we went and did them a deal. We practically got it for next to nothing, the space, and it's brilliant. Above the urinals, back of toilet doors, worked the street, $600,000, I think, in 13 days flat. Our customer support team was actually counting checks. We had checks in those days. That was way, way back then. We did other creative things at, for instance, when we were in India in Net4. See, when you're marketing, you have to understand that individuals do things for a few reasons. If you save them time, right, they'll probably buy your product. This is why Amazon works really, really well. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff I buy on Amazon is probably more expensive than I could buy in a shop, but the fact I can get next day delivery, why I need next day delivery on my power drill, I have no idea, right? But it feels good, right? So you pay a little bit more, you don't care about the price. So people buy things because of time. So if you've got a time trigger, you're going on holiday selling insurance, ISA season, pension season, etc. If you have a time trigger, people will buy if you can market at that exact time. The rest of the year is waste time. So I mentioned ISAs and I mentioned pensions. At Nutmeg, 90% of our business came in about 72 hours before tax year end. So you had to nail it at that 72 hours. And then the rest, there was another season as well. September, October is great for fintech as well. But April is a brilliant season for fintech companies because everybody starts thinking about money. January, a little bit. So you have to get the time triggers right. The other thing you have to get right in marketing is, the second trigger is people do stuff if you can save them money or you can make them money. And that's where eToro is about, making people money. So you have to then push that trigger. So if in your business you think, well, what am I doing? Am I saving them time? Am I making or saving them money? There was a third one which was mentioned earlier to me about status. You know, you're the first in the queue. You've got something which is really cool that everybody wants. Probably won't agree with that 100%. For me, things like making and saving money and time always works in whatever product you're actually marketing. I'm trying to switch on my phone here. I'm not being rude. I'm not reading WhatsApp, but I made a couple of notes here while I was sitting down because I wasn't supposed to be doing this presentation. My head of marketing was, but my head of marketing is busy today. So obviously she asked the managing director to come in and step forward, and I said, well, okay, I'll come and do it. Two things I would look at in marketing. One is density and one is cheating, right? I like to make things really, really simple. Density, people will only, the only way you're going to get from one customer to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 is if people can see your product and they will talk about your product. Example, imagine summer barbecue, you've got 10 people having a barbecue and you have one person talking about your product. A few people will listen. But in that same group of friends, if you can get 2 people to talk about your product, I promise you, you will get other people interested and go to the website. So when you're marketing, you have to ask yourself, where are those clusters? Facebook did it, Craigslist did it, every single one of them did exactly the same thing. What they did was say, right, where are those clusters of people, whether they're geographical clusters, so everybody sitting in London or everybody living in Wimbledon or Clapham or Balham or anything like that, or they could be clusters based around where they study, UCL, LSE, etc. They could be clusters around hobbies, particular football teams. They could be clusters around, where they all go out clubbing. They could be clusters around where they all go shopping. Do they all go to Oxford Street or they hang out in Leicester Square? You have to create that density. If you can create that density and you can get 2 people in one office to talk about your product, is far more powerful than getting 2 people in 2 different offices. And this is where a lot of people make the mistakes when they're marketing. They go so wide, so they have one person on east side of London who has their product, and they have one person on the west side of London. Those 2 people will never create density. They will never talk. You'd much rather have 2 people in the east side of London. But it doesn't always have to be a geographical density. You just have to find the right cluster. So when you're seeding, Facebook seeded, Craigslist seeded, they all spammed people at university. Once they seeded, they went wide with the seeding, then they look at the clusters and they say, right, these are the clusters that we need to hit. We need to get more and more people talking about it. The other thing is about making your product tangible. The problem with fintech is that we're not real. There's nothing we give physically to people. We may give them a pension, we may give them an ISA, we might give them help in rent, we might give them a mortgage, we might give them there's nothing tangible. So you have to figure out how to make your product tangible. How do you get something in people's hands? It can be a cup of coffee, it could be anything, but you need to give them something tangible. So for instance, I was working with a startup who was looking at doing nutrition products. And there's so many nutrition websites which count your calories, etc., etc. And he said, how do we make this thing tangible? We said, why not give everybody a kitchen scale? Right? They will see your name in the kitchen every single time they're cooking. Their friends, when they come around for dinner, will see your name every single time you are cooking, rather than just having an app which says, these are your calories. So you've got to make your thing tangible. Airbnb did something really, really cool. They had the key rings. So Airbnb, one of their biggest problems was like, what do we do? People go and rent a house. You go to the house, if you've all done Airbnb, you can't see Airbnb when you rent the house, when you walk in there, when you sit there for 3-4 days. So they started giving people key rings. That was part of their rebrand. A company in India called Flipkart went on to become one of the biggest e-commerce businesses. How did they start off and make themselves tangible? What they realized was all the students who wanted to buy a book needed a bookmark. So they started to give everybody a bookmark, and that bookmark had the name of their website and said, next time you buy this book, rather than going to the shop, buy it from our website. So you've got to make your business tangible. So just a couple of things to leave you on. So density was the first one. And to create the density, you need to get people to see your product and talk about your product. You've got to get 2 people talking. And that's the only way you get to 1 million customers. The second part is cheat. People waste so much time on trying to figure out marketing. And the worst thing about marketing is I'm yet to meet a single CMO who will tell me a marketing campaign which has failed. There's hundreds of CTOs. There's lots of techies who'll say, you know what, I wrote this software program, my server crashed, or this happened. They're proud of their failures. Whereas you'll never meet a marketing person who will ever tell you, I did a marketing campaign and it really didn't work. Which means we use all the same channels again and again and again and again and again, even the ones which are channels have failed for our colleagues. When I'm saying about cheating, what you need to do is, if you're selling a product, so if you're selling, a rental app, or you're selling other finance products, just see who else has sold to them. It really is that simple. So if I was going to sell Nike trainers tomorrow, I would ask myself, well, if you're buying Nike trainers, you might be buying tracksuit bottoms or something as well. Fine, let's see where the tracksuit bottom company is advertised. Let's see what channels they're using. Let's go and speak to them and just use the same channels, because they're targeting exactly the same customers. So if you're in fintech and you want to launch a new fintech bank, just go and see what Revolut were doing and they spammed all the meetup groups, or go and see what Monzo were doing and saying, well, how did they go and market their products. Just see who else has sold a similar product to your customer set and copy them. I know it sounds obvious, but none of us do it. We want to come out with our own creative idea of reaching new customers, and you're thinking, kind of wasting your time because you have a limited runway. So I would say go out there and cheat. Thank you.